help or intervention from the teacher, from the parent, from someone who's, as Vygotsky would say, the better other, okay? But we're going to talk about this later, all right? So far, so good. Yeah? So in terms of the characteristics, is it clear that all those characteristics we have mentioned, they are part of any children? And as a teacher, I have to be aware of this. I have to take these things into consideration if I want to design a course, an activity, a lesson, a task that's effective and that promotes learning and that's responsive to the needs of the child. Is that clear to everybody? Yeah? Do you have any questions concerning this, concerning the characteristics? No? Yeah? All right. So, if these characteristics are so important because they're part of young learners, they're typical of young learners, what knowledge and skills should teachers have and develop in order to deliver lessons, in order to design courses, in order to teach young learners effectively? What do you think?
Teacher has to be creative. Has to have plenty of energy.
Okay, so creativity, energy, absolutely. Because sometimes it's more tiring than going to the gym, isn't it? When you teach a group of young learners, it's physical, isn't it? It's tiring. It's really rewarding as well. I mean, it's a great experience, but it's physical, it's tiring, yeah? I remember sometimes I've been teaching young learners since I joined Cultura Inglesa, so for many years, and sometimes when you leave the room, you need some minutes to put yourself together, because it's physical. Exactly. It's really fun. You have a lot of fun, you laugh, and you learn a lot as well with the children, but for sure, you need energy, you need creativity. What else? Absolutely. So awareness of their cognitive development, right? The stage of development the children are at. Absolutely. Very good point. What else? Okay, check if this makes sense. Okay? So it's important for us as teachers to be aware of the child's cognitive, social, and emotional development. As your name again, I'm sorry? As Anna has just pointed out, okay? And it's also important to be aware of differences and how these differences may or may not affect learning. It's also important to know this because then you're going to be better able to make informed decisions. Not only in terms of instruction, in terms of what we are going to actually teach, in terms of the content of the lessons and everything, but also in terms of classroom management. Oftentimes, when you talk about young learners, the first thing that teachers will think about is indiscipline, right? And they go like, because children are indisciplined, and children this and children that. And oftentimes, it's not a matter of indiscipline. It's a matter of lack of classroom management skills, okay? Because, yes?
I used to do one thing. I said to all my students, yes, we start with 10. Everybody, I'll give grade 10 for everybody. During the class, if you do something wrong and something not good to your classmate, then we'll diminish. Okay, teacher, all right. Something I suggested. 1, 2, everybody was quiet, everybody was doing their tasks, and it was amazing and fun at the same time.
Okay, and that's a strategy, right?
My way to manage my class.
Exactly, and that's a strategy. Some people will agree with this, the use of rewards and stuff like that. Others will say that no, that's not quite the best way to approach things, and then they have other suggestions and possibilities. But then again, it's about management, right? It's about developing strategies, knowing the learners and developing strategies to be better able to manage the classroom. But the important thing is, the bottom line is, we have to be able to manage learners and the learning process effectively. So it's about helping the children learn better. It's about the quality of the tasks we design, how we, deliver the task, and how we monitor students, and instructions, how we give instructions, how the balance of tasks. If we have games from the beginning of the lesson till the end of the lesson, it's gonna be chaotic. But if we are able to balance things, taking into consideration their attention span, for instance, and their needs and stuff, then we're gonna be better able to deliver a lesson, to ensure that learners learn, and in a way that's organized, and in a way that classroom management is in place. All right? On the other hand, some people expect children to behave like adults, right? Isn't it? And then they go like, okay, but my children, they never stop because they can't remain seated. But look, I mean, they're children. I mean, when you were a child, were you able to remain seated, like to stay put, like for the whole day? And it's impossible. So you see how important it is for the teacher to be aware of the needs of the child, their development, their stage of development, and in order to provide instruction that's responsive to their needs, and also in order to use classroom management skills that are effective. And then we ensure learning, we help the children, and we also feel that, there's no sense of frustration, because oftentimes teachers say as well, I don't like teaching young learners because I feel frustrated because I ask them to do something, they don't do that. And look, it's not about the children, it's about your development as a teacher. It's about how you are or are not able to provide the children with what's ready, and not ready, but what's appropriate for them, what's appropriate for their moment, for their stage of development. Does it make sense?
I think we have to provoke them.
As well.
Teaching them something interesting, and they know, after all, we have some great activity with games. I think like that.
Exactly. The role of mediator, isn't it? The role of, we are there, we can intervene, and our intervention may trigger further learning, for instance. All right?
And nowadays, I think that, I'm sure, that we have to pay attention to the students, to include some students with special needs.
Absolutely.
Yes, we have to pay attention because at the moment we don't know.
Absolutely.
Maybe the parents, okay, they inform the school, of course. But if it's different in the classroom, we have to be alert of this.
Absolutely. And being able, understanding what special needs are, and how to provide this inclusive environment, this is vital nowadays. And again, this is about the teacher's development. It's about our development as a teacher, as a professional, as an educator at the end of the day. All right?
There is another point. Sorry.
That's all right, please.
There is a school that I know that the children are very, they are children really. I think from 2 or 3 to 5 and 6 years, and it's a very nice school. But their parents are, they are or gays or lesbians. That school take all kind of students, of children, but especially that the parents are or gays or lesbians. And there is no Father's Day, there is no Mother's Day, there is always the Family Day.
That's interesting.
So we have to pay attention to this when we talk nowadays.
Exactly, because it's about diversity, and it's about inclusion. And by diversity and inclusion, we mean everything.
Yes.
Okay? All right, so far so good? Yeah? Okay, so concerning this development here mentioned in this excerpt, then I'd like to point out one of the approaches, one of the views is the view, a more cognitive one, according to Piaget, right? And here we're going to take into consideration the child's development in terms of cognition. It's more biological, okay? We are not talking about the teacher's intervention. We are not talking about here this more social cultural approach, more Vygotsky. We're going to talk about this later, okay? But this is one of the possibilities, one of the views. And according to this view, we have stages of development, okay? And the very first one, from the age of 0 to 2, is the sensory motor. And here, the child will interact with the immediate environment. It's what's around them. They are ready to recognize that they've come to realize that people and objects exist even if they're not present. So at this stage they start realizing this, okay? So my mom exists even if she's not here, okay? The toy exists even if it's not here. And that's when they start experimenting with toys and objects. And that's when language starts developing. So the early development of language, words as symbols. Okay, so they start realizing that the words symbolize objects, people, nature, toys, and stuff. All right? So they see something, and they're able, when they start speaking, they're able to say the word. Okay, because that's what they want, and then they start uttering, because they know that if they utter the word, the mother, the father will get it and give it to them, for instance. Does make sense? Then the second stage, from the age of 2 to 7, and here we start, remember, young learners from 6 to 12, okay? That's the pre-operational. And at this stage, there is increasing language development. That's when they start, picking up the language. So by the age of 6, the child has already picked up the whole system of their first language, okay? That's when they start having concepts of the past because of the memory, and the concept of the future is also clear because of imagination. So the concept of the past is clear, there is memory. The concept of the future is clear because they can imagine what's coming. They enjoy imaginative plays, and they assume, this is really important, that the others share the very same interests and knowledge and feelings and perspectives they have. Okay, so that's a stage when the child is really egotistic. Because exactly, egotistic.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, because what happens is my interest, so I think your interest should also be the same as my interest. So I want this and I want this. If you don't want this, I want this. Yeah? Come again?
Especially for only child.
Exactly. Yeah. So feelings, perspectives, okay? But this is typical of all children at this stage, okay? All right? So at school, for instance, is it important for the teacher to be aware of this if you're teaching a group of 6-year-old children? Of course. So can I expect my child to be able to share things, to share the pencil, to share the toy without intervention? Not really, because at that stage it's my pen, and I want my pen, it's my toy. Does make sense? And the teacher may intervene. The teacher may be ready to intervene and teach and help the child develop. But expecting them to do things at this stage that they're not really ready for, then it might be, a bit of a stretch from the teacher's perspective. All right? but they have difficulty classifying objects. What's a circle? What's a square and stuff. Of course, they start developing this. This is just an overview of a spectrum from 2 to 7. So throughout this spectrum, we have different stages of development. Just an overview, okay?
I think they usually start classifying objects from 2 to 3, right?
From what?
2 to 3 years old.
When they start to realize that it's exactly, but it's still difficult for them. Yeah. Okay. Then we have the concrete operational from 7 to 12, and here they start learning and understanding that the others may have different knowledge, feelings, and perspectives. Okay? So that's the moment when they start realizing, okay, the other is different from me. There is logical reasoning going on, especially when dealing with concrete objects, but this is not applicable to abstract concepts. Okay? They can draw conclusions about the world based on their individual experiences. So my experience helps me draw conclusions about the world as a whole. Okay? I can use logical reasoning for concrete things, but when it comes to abstract concepts, things like money, let's say, and dealing with this, they're still developing. They're not yet able, okay? Of course, towards the age of 10, 11, 12, then they're better able to start dealing with abstraction. Even for language, they start realizing things, and so at the age of 6, 7, they won't be able to understand how the sentence is formed, and that we have the subject, the verb, the object, things like that. But when they're around 10, 11, 12, then they're able of doing this because they start developing the ability to deal with abstraction. Okay? Does it make sense? And they understand that some actions can be undone. Okay? So some actions can be undone. We can change something. So if I've hurt you, I can apologize, and we can be friends again, let's say. Okay? The order of things here is like from here to here. So from 7 to 12. So they go, for all of these, the order according to the book I got this from. I'm going to show the resource at the end. So it's more related to their development. Okay? So far so good. The last one, from the age of 12 to adulthood, then we have the formal operational. Again, it's a spectrum with different stages of development, okay? But in a nutshell, they can think abstractly, so not only concrete things, but also abstract concepts. They can perform complex mathematical functions, so in terms of understanding and processing things that are more complex, mathematical and stuff. They can form and test hypotheses. So if this is true, then this is also true, and they test them and things like that. If I do this, this will happen, and they can test them.
So probably cause and effect is better to teach after the year 12. Cause and effect.
Might be an implication. Yeah, might be an implication, because it has to do with, especially if it's something more abstract. Yeah. But then, and that's the thing, this is according to Piaget, which is just related to the stage of development, biologically speaking, and from a cognitive perspective. If we think about Vygotsky and the role of the mediator and intervention and stuff like that, then we would be able to teach that even earlier, because it has to do with what the child is. It might be something just beyond their current developmental stage, but with some sort of help and intervention.
So you would need to mix methodology.
Exactly. This is one view, just for us to have an idea, okay? Some people are against this. They don't agree. And they're gonna go like, no, I don't agree with this because I believe in mediation, and I think that if I intervene with the help of a better, a more capable peer, then the child is capable of much more. For some people, this would, sound like underestimating the child's potential, okay? But I think it's important for us to have an idea and understand, because certain things, and the important thing is, with intervention, they're capable of more. But this more that they're capable of can't be way beyond their reach.
Okay.
So as a teacher, as the mediator, as the facilitator, we have to know the child, to get to understand the children, and realize, okay, they might be ready for this, and they may go beyond if I provide this and this with this type of intervention, or this type of encouragement and stuff like that. However, it can't be impossible. So asking a child who's not ready to write, for instance, to copy something from the board, that would be too much, regardless of support but asking a child who she sees a book, and at the cover of the book, on the cover of the book, there are many stars, and the child starts counting and goes like 1, 2 and stops. So the child wants to count, and then I might help the child count and go, and it might go up to 20, let's say. Maybe at that stage it would have been a bit too much, but with some sort of help and support from the more capable peer, the child can do that. Or in terms of articulation, sometimes we see children, and when they speak, you go like, oh my God, how come? They say these things, and because their lexical choices, the words they're using, pronunciation, articulation, verb tenses sometimes, and things, you go like, wow, how come? And it has to do with the environment. Maybe parents or teachers or, people around them use the language, and because of the input, because of the support, because of the interaction in that particular environment, the child is capable of doing things that other children at the same age wouldn't be doing, because they're not in an environment that stimulates this.
I think what is stimulating, especially boys, is the games. I don't know the games on the computer. I don't know the names, and there are many vocabulary, many commandments, and then when you talk to them, they seems to be familiar with English without command.
Is that because of the exposure, because of the environment?
I think it makes them to learn easier. In my point of view.
Absolutely.
I agree on what you said, but I see some difficulties where I teach, because we usually level the kids. So it's not only teenagers, it's according to their English levels. But the thing is, there are classes where we have children from 6 to 7, which they don't know how to write yet or read, but they speak very well, and they have this huge knowledge and vocabulary. But they are with kids that does, so it's hard to provide an equal class.
And that's
Although they have the same English level.
exactly, and that's important, because remember, one of the things we mentioned before is that the teacher may have to be aware of the differences and how these differences may impact learning. And sometimes it's about,
But to put in the same class is kind of hard, because
I know it is hard. And then as a teacher, is it possible for me maybe to design lessons in a way that I can cater for diversity and a mixed ability group, and be able to deliver? It's the same lesson, but in a way that those who need more support get more support, those who need more challenge get more challenge, for instance. And again, this is not related to the stage of development per se, but it's related to the intervention, mediation of the teacher. Does it make sense? And for some people, that's why so we have here deductive logic as well. They can talk about impossible hypothetical situations, but for some people, these stages of development, they're important, okay, but they would go like, all right, I can't just assume that I have to stick, as a teacher, I have to stick to what the child is ready for. Because I can stimulate my student to go beyond. I can stimulate my student to do more. I can stimulate my student to, to reach their full potential. And then this would, bring us to the topic of interaction, mediation, zone of proximal development, which we're going to focus on in a minute. Does make sense? Yeah? But I decided to bring this because if you think about cognitive development and the classroom, there might be certain things that if the teacher is aware of the child's current stage of development and what they are ready for, then the teacher might be able to make informed decisions when certain things happen. For instance, remember from the age of 7 to 12, they start understanding that others may have different knowledge, feelings, and perspectives. This means that as a teacher, I can help my student accept their peers' opinions as valid and valuable. So teaching them, and that might be my intervention, teaching them to respect different opinions, to accept different opinions, because at this stage, they're ready for this. Does that mean that before, when the child is 5 or 6, I can't do this? Not really, not really. I may, realize that, okay, I might intervene here and teach this. Of course, in a way that's appropriate for the child, right? Not by lecturing, not by telling that.
Introduction without expecting, giving grades.
Exactly. But here, I know, okay, they're able to do this because in terms of their cognitive development, they're ready for this. You see?
But even so, it's difficult.
It is. It's a challenge. It's a challenge. Yeah, it's a challenge. The teacher knows that the child has the ability or is developing the ability to work in groups and to make decisions together at higher grades. Example, how to run a project. Okay? So this means that, okay, at this stage, I can provide more group work in my classroom. I can give them some sort of autonomy in terms of, reaching and making decisions as to what to do, how to do things in class, all right? Does that mean that before that, I may not have group work? Not really. I may have my, children at the age of 6 working in groups, but it might pose more challenge. Does make sense? Yeah? Or they understand that some actions can be undone, which means that after disagreement, the children will apologize and be friends again if asked to. So I may take opportunities like this, there is a disagreement, to teach or to help them understand, how to apologize, the importance of, having the sense of community in the classroom and things like that. Does it make sense? Respecting each other. Because teaching young learners goes way beyond teaching the language, isn't it? It has to do with the development of their own development as individuals. It has to do with values. It has to do with respect. It has to do with establishing a routine. It has to do with preparing them for the real world, for the real life, right? Even at lower grades, they can correct their own work. So you see, with support, but I might try that out with students. At higher levels, they can even carry out peer correction, provided that the guidelines are clearly stated. You see, so I can, little by little, of course, way better with 12-year-olds than with 7-year-olds, because again, it's a spectrum of development, but I can help them develop autonomy and help each other, provide interaction, peer help, peer support. Does make sense? So being aware of the stages of development, and if you get, what Piaget suggests, it's much more detailed than this. So stage by stage, it might be, a starting point for us to realize, okay, what I'm doing in class, is it aligned with what the child is ready for at this stage? This is one possibility, okay? Another view, on the other hand, is what Vygotsky will put forward, and it has to do with mediation, zone of proximal development, and scaffolding. So, according to this view, it's not really about the cognitive developmental stage of the child, but it's about the environment and what the child will be able to do, or what the child might be able to do in response to the stimulus from the environment. So in the previous view, it's much more related to something that comes from the inside. And here, it's much more related to my response, the child's response to the environment, something that comes from the outside. Does it make sense? Are you familiar with this concept of zone of proximal development, ZPD? No? So it's basically like this, okay? Let's say that what the child is ready for at this point is here, okay? This is what the child is ready for, all right? Let's say that the whole zone, the word here, this is the zone of proximal development. It means that this is what the child can do with help, with support, with the intervention of a more capable peer, with the intervention of a better other. Alone, the child will not be able to do this, because the child is here. This is the current stage of development, what the child can do without help. The child can do by themselves. And here, in this blank space here, this is what's out of the ZPD, outside the ZPD. So this is what the child cannot do even with help. Does it make sense? So here what the child can do alone. They are ready for this. Here what the child can't do, even if there's help, there's support. And in between the zone of proximal development, meaning an area where the child will be able to do different things provided there is help, provided there is support, provided there is the intervention of the better other, of the more capable peer. Is that clear? Yeah? So, in the classroom, for instance, the child may not be able to use a certain chunk of language to ask for materials. Okay, so I need a pencil, I don't have a pencil. The child's not able to ask, can I borrow a pencil, please? May not be able to do that. But with help, with the intervention of the teacher, some sort of teaching, drilling, and the child's gonna be able to do that. Does it make sense? So this is what's in the zone of proximal development. The interesting thing is that every person has a different ZPD. So if you have a group of 5-year-olds, does that mean that everybody will be at the same developmental stage? Not really. They're all 5-year-olds. So according to Piaget, they have certain characteristics. However, it's not just about that. It goes beyond that. So if you have 20 students, you have 20 different ZPDs. João may be ready for something with support, which is different from what Ana is ready for, with some sort of support and intervention and stuff like that.
Class, it's better for you to follow Piaget, so we have, because you cannot prepare a class according to a ZPD, since all the kids have like different ZPDs. You won't be able to prepare a class.
But you can in the.
Different ZPDs.
But you can in the sense that when you plan your lesson, design your lesson and stuff, so at this age, they're ready for this, this, and this. So I might challenge them And when you challenge them and provide some sort of game or something that's a bit more challenging, then you're gonna see some will need more help, and you're there to provide, or the others might provide, their peers might provide. Others will need less help, but they will all be able to do something that's slightly beyond their current stage of development. Does it make sense? Exactly. Okay? And then when you give them a task, when you give them challenge, you have to be ready. Okay, I'm gonna give this task, this challenge. Remember classroom management. So I'm gonna plan the task well, carefully. Instructions will be clear. I'm going to set the task in a way that's clear and helpful for learners. And then I'm gonna see this student will need, some students are going to need more support, more help. Others are going to need less support, less help. I can help, I can provide some sort of interaction and peer support, peer help, in the sense that those who are, who wouldn't need that much help might provide support to the others, to their peers. So I may create an environment of collaboration in which everybody helps everybody, in which I help my students, and everybody learns and develops. Do you see the point? Is it clear? Yeah? So as I said, the mediation of the better other, this more capable peer, could be the teacher, could be the parent, could be another student. Right? And then we have what I said, this support we provide, it's what we usually call scaffolding. Okay? So the child is not able to do this alone, but with some sort of scaffolding, some sort of help, the child is going to be able to perform that. Okay? So, and this applies also to teenagers and adults. So there is a speaking task. If I tell them, okay guys, in pairs tell each other what you did last weekend, but you are basic students, elementary students, you're not able to do that. So that's beyond your current zone of proximal development. But if I provide some sort of language frame, so A, what did you do last weekend? B, I, gap. Then C, oh, how interesting. And E, what did you do? Oh, I did this and this. There is some sort of frame there. Then I drill, I clarify language, I drill. And okay, guys, in pairs, and then they're going to tell each other what they did last weekend, for instance. I elicit language they need, and then they do this. So what I'm doing is I'm providing scaffolding, the language frame, the drilling, elicitation of language, all the preparation for the task. And then they're able to perform the task. So there was mediation from the better other, the more capable peer. There was scaffolding, this temporary help, support. We give someone, but then we remove this little by little so that the student could perform something that alone he wouldn't be able to perform. Clear? Yeah? For many people, for many primary school teachers and staff, they would say that this is more responsive to the needs of the child. Okay, not only sticking to what the child is ready for, but being able to get the child to go beyond, to stimulate the child to do more. All right? So far, so good? Okay, how helpful is this? What do you think? Tell each other, 1 minute, just tell your partner, okay? If you think this is helpful, how does that sound to you? If you three could work together, okay?